Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo are two of the biggest artists in the world right now, and their albums Midnights and Guts will be competing head-to-head in Album of the Year. Can Taylor win a record-breaking 4th Album of the Year Grammy, or is it time for Olivia to take her first? Let's discuss. Hello everybody, welcome back to Oscar Buzz. It's actually, a bit of Grammy buzz today. It's Trevor, and I'm joined by Jack, who's probably the most apt to talk about music of the rotating panel on this channel.
Probably, yeah.
But we're talking about some music today. We've probably most known for doing film coverage in the Oscars, and we've touched a little bit into TV, but we wanted to start talking about music. I particularly, pretty big fan of music. Jack is as well, I would say.
I am, yes.
And we're going to be delving into the Grammys, very specifically Album of the Year. These aren't going to be full predictions, just a bit of a conversation about the frontrunners right now, because contrary to film and TV, there aren't really like precursor awards with like crossover as far as the voting or guild awards or anything like that. It's purely vibes based with the Grammys.
It is, yeah.
Which makes them very difficult to predict, but we can kind of get a sense just as far as what's big, what's been well received, and who is the moment right now. So let's get into our Album of the Year prediction. I think the obvious, person did, elephant.
Who's the moment?
I have it sitting right back here. Midnights. I mean, she is fully the moment of the music industry. She is fully the moment of the entertainment industry right now.
Of the world.
Yeah, biggest tour of all time. She just tied for like the most VMAs ever won.
Mm-hmm.
Like she just broke the record for most album or most Video of the Year awards. And she could be potentially doing that with Album of the Year. She's her 4th. She's currently on 3, which is level for the most of all time with Frank Sinatra, Stevie Wonder, and Paul Simon. She takes her 4th, becomes the most winning artist of all time in Album of the Year. And it's looking quite likely. It just makes sense with
makes too much sense.
With how massive she is, like with the tour. With everything going on with all of the Taylor versions being released. Like 1989 will be 1989 TV will be dropping within October, a month, right around when nomination voting is happening. Reputation TV will probably dropping right around like when the ceremony is happening. Like
she knows what she's doing with the way she plans them out as well.
Oh yeah,
so
don't
underestimate that.
Yeah, everything is checking out for this to happen. And I mean, I think for both of us, Midnights is lower tier Taylor. We're both, I would say, quite big Taylor Swift fans. You may call us Swifties.
Quite big.
But I think it is one of her lesser albums.
It's still very good. I just think.
Yeah, I still like
in the grand Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Era, or what would you call it?
A discography.
Discography. Yes, that's a good word. Like filmography.
Yeah.
It's definitely on the lower half.
I would agree. But it honestly feels less like, for the album and just more so for just her completely owning this year. And like you may say, okay, they're a bit picky. Like they gave it to her for Fearless, they gave 1989, and they gave Folklore, which I think are like, generally considered 3 of her strongest albums.
Yeah.
And are they gonna, there's like 5-6 years in between all of those. Are they gonna give her another one just 3 years after Folklore? But she's looking really undeniable this year.
The way she has changed just in popularity, even in those 3 years, like you would think she hit her peak with Folklore, but she is definitely at her. I don't know if she can even peak higher than what she is now. I don't know how that's possible, but this is like, she's definitively, as everyone says, the music industry. And when the music industry is voting, you think they would vote for themselves in Taylor Swift.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there's a world where she could, sweep album, song, and record, if I'm being completely honest. Like,
yeah, I could see that,
with Anti-Hero taking both. Like, I think that she's really strong. I think one person can potentially pose a threat. I know people have brought up like SZA. I don't.
She's a strong number 3, I think. SZA.
She's strong. Like Boy Genius, I have the shirt. Love them. I don't think that they really have a chance. I don't think so. Lana has a chance. Miley, John Batiste, like none of these people I feel like are really strong. Foo Fighters or Bruce Springsteen as well, I don't think are that strong.
No, not
the one person who I do think could pose a threat is Olivia Rodrigo. Guts just came out right at the end of eligibility, and Midnights, like again, how many people remember Midnights, and how many people are just like in like remembering the Eras tour, right? Like, because Midnights was almost a year ago, and by the time like voting happens, it will be like a year and like 3 months or so ago. Whereas Guts just came out. received very, very well. Did, very, very well as far as charting. Olivia Rodrigo is going to be starting her tour right around the time when Grammy winner, voting will be happening. And Olivia Rodrigo, like, she fully overcame the sophomore slump. I honestly prefer it to Sour. I think it's a really, really strong album.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's close. It's close. They're both
yeah,
incredible. I'd have to wait a little longer before I
that's fair.
definitively said, but they're both very good.
I mean, and if I'm being honest, like, I love Taylor Swift. I honestly kind of prefer Guts to Midnight on a personal level.
Yeah, I think there might be one or two Midnight songs that I like overall more than any Gut
Sure, yeah,
songs, but I think on an overall, like, per song, like,
yeah,
whole album basis, I would probably like Guts a little more.
yeah. And like, I mean, it's I don't know, it's I think a step up in maturity for Olivia. I think, as
Yeah.
far as like the thematic cohesiveness of the album as a whole, her vocals, her lyrics, like everything, it's
Mhm.
definitely a step up. And she took new artist and I think a couple of wins in the pop categories the first
Yeah.
time around. I think that there's a world where maybe they're like, okay, we dipped your toes in with the first time. Now we're gonna fully throw you in, and give you the win. And it feels very much, it's giving nothing new Taylor's version. It feels very much
Yeah.
old versus new. Like, do they give it to Taylor Swift, give her fourth, and make her the most winning of all time, or do they maybe like pass the torch a little bit and throw some love to Olivia, who again has a really strong record that would, I think would be very deserving of album of the year.
Oh,
Like,
totally. Yeah.
my
They would
personal
both
pick
be
is
very
Lana
deserving.
so far for this year as a whole.
Me
Like,
as well. I would also go with Lana, but I don't think she's had as much of a chance of winning.
no,
But I think if you're looking at the moment, I think if there's any time to make Taylor the most winning artist, it
yeah,
would be now. And I think
yeah,
they would also look at Olivia. There's many more albums to come to award her, I think. Well, same with Taylor Swift. But
yeah.
if there's more of a moment with one of them, it would be much more with Taylor Swift
Yeah,
than with
it'll be
Olivia.
interesting to see if Olivia ends up submitting. My guess is that, and from what I've heard, she's going to be submitting rock rather than pop.
Okay.
For
I could
which,
see that. Yeah.
and I could see her taking some in like the rock categories.
Yeah.
As far as like rock album, rock performance, all those types of things.
Hmm.
Which I think would also be smart as
That would be
well
smart.
to kind of separate from Taylor, because I think that Taylor's pretty like between Taylor and
Yeah.
Miley, like because
Pop. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't think Miley's gonna be that much of a threat for album with Endless
Maybe
Summer
song.
Vacation, but I think Song with Flowers, like I think there's a world where like she gets snubbed for album, but is still competitive to win like song or
I
record
think so.
in the
That
general
song has
field.
been very big, so
Yeah,
that's very possible.
absolutely, absolutely. So it'll be interesting. Like, Taylor feels like the front runner, but with the Grammys, it's never great to be the front runner.
Look at
How
last year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Harry Styles coming out of absolutely nowhere, but
And winning.
yeah, I mean,
No
look
one
at John
like him has
Batiste.
ever won before.
John Batiste, the year
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
right? Like
Hmm.
this happens regularly. It's never good to be the front runner, but also I've been following the Grammys for like 3-4 years. There's never been a front runner that's felt as strong as Taylor Swift, where
Yeah.
they felt fully like they just, as you said, they are the music industry.
Hmm. It's just her. And looking at the competition, it's like maybe Olivia, maybe SZA, but it's like
Yeah, because
people are
there's
going
no
to
other
see
like
Taylor
strong
Swift.
Grammys darlings
Yeah.
either. And
No.
this year it feels very much like the Year Folklore one, where it's a lot of
Hmm.
like kind of smaller, more like indie artists or like up and comers like Olivia.
Yeah.
And there isn't like, I mean, last year was just full of stacked names. I mean, you had
It
Beyonce, you had
was.
Adele, you had Harry Styles, you had I mean, was Billy there or was Billy the year before? Like
I
yeah,
think year
Billy was the year
before.
before, but like I mean, still, I mean, Kendrick was there, right? Like,
Yeah, it was a lot of big names.
stacked year. I mean, the year before as well. Stacked year.
Hmm.
This year less
Lots of
so,
people
and
have years off this year. So
yeah, yeah. I think that Taylor makes a lot of sense.
makes.
But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
Hmm.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see how big Guts ends up being. And
Yeah.
if Olivia could potentially make a run. How big the press tour is, everything like that.
Hmm.
But that is our discussion on
Early
the current
look.
album of the year.
Yeah.
So make sure that you stick around, because within the next week or so, we are going to be having our early Grammys predictions. We'll be predicting full nominations in all of the general fields. So that's album, song, record, and new artist. We'll be looking at those 4 categories in depth and discussing them. So Stick around for that, in addition to further Grammys coverage, Emmys coverage, Oscars coverage, conversations on film, TV, and music, all of the different fun things that you may like. I don't know if you're watching this. But until then, you can support the SAG and WJ strikes in the links in the description, in addition to following us on social media if that is something you are interested in. Until next time, thank you everybody for watching. Stay safe and goodbye.